Yeah, we need to figure out what's going on with this thing, why it quit producing power. Oh, hey guys, welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I'm out here checking out one of my favorite tools of all time. The reason I love this thing is because it's super lightweight, it's portable, it runs on 2-stroke, so I don't have to do a lot of maintenance to the thing. It's just been really a great tool. Well, last time I was out off-grid, I fired up this generator and I made a mistake. I thought I had my other generator running. I have a bigger, larger, like a 5500 watt generator. And I thought I was running that one, and I plugged in my circular saw, hit the button, and I heard it immediately start straining and struggling. I came back out to push the reset button and it wouldn't work. And I noticed the reset button was a little wonky, like it just didn't seem the same anymore. And so now what I've got going on is when I start this thing up and run it, I'm not getting any power output. It's still running fine, starting up just fine, but no power output. So I thought I'd run this right quick before I change this out. And I already, my first instinct was, because I've done this before, I've been through this before with other generators, my first instinct was to go ahead and replace the capacitor. That's usually the most common thing that goes wrong with these generators. So I bought a new capacitor and I made a video and everything and was getting ready to show you guys how to change out the capacitor in this thing. And I started it up and it was still doing the same thing. So what I did was, as it was running, I was pushing this button in and kind of wiggling around on it because it's got a lot of play in it. And I could get the device that I was trying to power up, which was an angle grinder, I could get it to fire up briefly and then shut off. So that led me to believe that this little reset button here, it's like a thermal overload breaker is what it is. It's a breaker circuit. It's designed so that if you exceed the voltage or the amperage of the unit, it will kick out, and that way it protects the machine from damage and stuff like that. But the problem is, I went on to Harbor Freight's website and they don't sell this little breaker. So that launched me into this whole big long basically wild goose chase where I was trying to find this thing. I finally found one, and if this works out at the end of the video, down in the description or maybe in the comments, I'll provide a link to the exact one that I bought, because they didn't make it very clear of which one I needed to put in here. And on Harbor Freight's website, they didn't even offer this as a replacement part. So if you've got one of these generators and it's doing a similar thing like this, and you can wiggle this button here and make it work, then it's a pretty good indication that it's this actual breaker. So let's fire this thing up and I'll show you what it's doing right now on the voltmeter, and we'll take it inside and change out that breaker, because I think that's our main problem here. Go ahead and turn the voltmeter on. I've got it on, it's choked. I had the fuel turned off, so it may take a couple of pulls. Okay, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I'm showing like 68 to 70 volts on the voltmeter here. It's just all over the place. The other day I was able to get it to spike a little bit and run my grinder, but it's not doing that now. And there's a whole lot of play. I don't know if you can see that from there, but there's a lot of play in this thing. So I can tell I'm getting low on fuel in there, so we're going to add some more fuel before we fire it back up. But for now, we're going to take it into the shop and change out that breaker, and hopefully that's the only problem with it. We're going to go ahead and take the tank loose. You'll see there are 4 bolts going into the tank. Okay, now that's loose. Set that aside. We're going to go ahead and take the air breather cover off here, the air cleaner cover. 2 screws here, Phillips head. Okay, Yeah, now that you're looking at it a little closer, you can probably see this just doesn't look right. And I couldn't get it, the plastic part of the end actually broke off, so I couldn't get it to stay back in there like I wanted it to. Okay, now when you get in here, I'm gonna move that aside. You're gonna see some bolts in here. There's one bolt here, and you have to take these 2 bolts off the carburetor. This is the hardest part of this deal, is getting everything lined back up. Although it wasn't that big of a deal, but it's just gonna be one of those things. I believe they're all 8mm. And actually, last time I did this, I used a 5/16. So if you don't have metric, 5/16 will work. Take these loose. Okay, and you see how that whole thing fell down like that. That's all right. I should probably turn the fuel off though, just so that I'm not losing fuel all over the desk here. Don't lose any of your bolts. And we should be able to kind of pull this up and flip that back a little. How am I going to show you guys this? Well, I don't have very much room to show you this, so you'll just have to take my word for it. Back here in the back, since mine is not screwed in, I'm just going to pull it off like this. And I wedged a piece of wood in there before to hold it. But here's what you're looking at. You can see my switch broke. The little plastic piece right here that goes around this, it broke off. So what we're going to do is get our new one out of the package. And it came to a package. It was like $7 or $8, but then I had to pay like $7 shipping or something like that for these pieces. And I'll give you guys a close-up of the numbers on here. I bought these on Amazon. I'm not a big fan of using Amazon, but let's see if we can get a focus on that. Hopefully you guys can read that number there. If not, I'll provide all these numbers and the part number, the exact item that I bought on Amazon. And if you guys want to try to duplicate this, I'm assuming it's going to work. It looks like it will. It's about the same size. These wires shouldn't matter, but I noticed this one says load and line, so we're going to look at this one. Okay, it says load and line. So we're going to put the same wires back on. Actually, I think it might matter. So disregard what I just said about it shouldn't matter. I think it does matter on this. It doesn't matter on the capacitor, but on this switch here, it looks like it does matter. So we're going to put the load on the load. And the line on the line. And get rid of that old switch there that's no good. Make sure they're seated on there properly. Okay. Now, as long as this hole is big enough, this should fit right in. And I can't pull it down any farther. I'd like to show you guys back here, but it's just not possible because of the way this stuff's all connected. It's got a whole bunch of other wires on there, and if I'd have to pull all those off. And I'm not going to do that. Okay, what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to get this piece of wood wedge that I made. I was attempting to hold that other one in place with this wood wedge, and it sort of worked, but... Okay, so now to feed this back through. In fact, let me see if I can pull that up and out of the way like that. Okay, that didn't really buy me any space. Okay, found it. Okay, that wasn't so bad. Push that through just like that. And we should have a collar. And because this thing is made to run outside, I went ahead and bought the switch that has the little protector here on it. Ideally, you won't be overloading this thing and you won't have to ever switch this thing very often. But the original one that was on here was not very good, even from the beginning. It just wasn't a very good reset switch. This one feels like it's a little better quality, so I'm just tightening that on there by hand. It's plastic, so we can't go crazy with it. Okay, that's as tight as it goes. Now I'm going to put this on. Okay, so now I'm going to put this water cover on here. And that should give us access to that and keep everything dry. So that's nice. Now all we have to do is put everything back together. And for whatever reason, the screw fell out of my, here's your capacitor. If you ever have to change that, it's right here at the top. It's what it looks like right there. And this is the replacement one that I put in. So far it's working, so I'm going to leave it in. But what that tells me is the capacitor that I changed out was not a problem. So I'm going to have to get a stubby screwdriver here and see if I can get in there and tighten that down. Not sure why that screw fell out, so last time I put it in, I know that. Okay, so we're just going to snug that up because, again, it's plastic. You can't go crazy with it. So now, here's the tricky part, is getting everything lined back up. And you can't see it, but I'm reaching inside and I'm kind of lining the carburetor back up. And pushing the bolts in farther. Not all the way, but farther. And actually, yes, you do have to push them all the way through. Push them through the carburetor first. That's how I did it last time. And then you kind of have to line everything up. Not sure what's going on there. I think that's supposed to go on top. Yes. No. Okay, I'm making sure none of my wires are going to get pinched. Not sure what the deal is there. Maybe that bracket got bent or something. That should be it right there. And that's the trick to this, is getting everything kind of lined up where it's supposed to be. And then getting your carburetor started here. And you can't really see it, but I'm looking through a gap right here where I can actually see the carburetor bolts. And I'm trying to line them up to the side of the engine there. Let's see. Where am I? Okay, some of my linkage is giving me problems right now. Okay, there we go. And another thing that's giving me problems is I've got my fuel line pulled too tight on that tank. Okay, there we go. Okay, I felt it go in. Don't tighten it down all the way because you've got to get the other one started. Okay. Go ahead and run that one in. Oh, I didn't get it. I thought I had it. It threaded into something. Okay, what's the deal deal. Oh, no wonder I threaded it in the wrong hole. Supposed to go for the slotted hole. There we go. I was wondering what the deal was. I wasn't seeing that bolt coming through. Well, that explains it. Trying to get in a hurry here. That stuff always happens as soon as you turn the camera on. Okay, so get this one started. Okay. Now I want to make sure my carburetor is lined up properly. Oh, I thought I had that one started, but I didn't. Okay. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to snug these up. Okay. So always, if you're going to run an impact like this, always start your bolts first, and don't hammer on it super hard. That'll keep you from stripping things out. Okay, start them all by hand. So not that hard to work on, a little finicky to get in there. Okay, we are tight. We've got the new part installed. This is just my spare air cleaner that I keep right here in case I need it. Now we'll put the breather back on, or the air cleaner cover back on, the lid. And I actually made this larger air cleaner because it pulls air through here, and it's done a lot better. I've got a little bit of dirt down there, but it's not nearly as bad as when I was running that factory air cleaner. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this up. I'm going to get my hands washed up real quick because I got that 2-stroke oil all over me now. And we're going to get a little bit of fresh fuel in here and take it outside and see if we've healed it up. Okay, just real quick here, I saw something I overlooked when I was taking this thing or putting it back together. This little screw here that holds in the capacitor actually holds the front of the top of the thing, keeps it all solid and everything. So make sure you get that screw back through this bracket here. I skipped that when I first reassembled it, but I caught it just a minute ago. All right, it's time for the moment of truth. Did our little $7 switch actually fix this generator? All right, guys, it's a couple of days later. I had to take a couple of days to heal up, and this thing really wore me out. I went ahead and changed that switch out like I showed you earlier, and that was no problem. Everything went as planned. I put it back together. I came out here and started pulling it and pulling it and pulling it more and pulling it more and checking for spark, checking for fuel. Everything looked good. The spark plug was getting really wet, and I was thinking, well, is it fouling out? I didn't know what the deal was. So eventually what I ended up doing was taking the side cover off because I burned some holes in my finger. I don't know if that's going to show up on the camera or not, but I burned a couple of holes in there pull starting this thing so many times, so I couldn't physically do it anymore. And so what I ended up doing was taking the side cover off and getting a corded drill and a socket and plugging that in, and then I was able to spin the thing up fast enough that I could get it to fire off. But even then, it would only run for like 10-15 seconds and then it would die. And if I sat there and messed with the choke, I could get it to run a little longer, but I could tell something was wrong. So I ended up dumping the majority of the gas out that I could get out. I dumped the majority of that out, and I went ahead and mixed up some fresh two-stroke gas. Got that in there and tried again, and I was getting the same thing, but then I realized that I needed to drain the bowl out. So I drained the bowl out, and with a little help from some carb cleaner and some other stuff, WD-40, spraying it down the throat, I was finally able to get the thing to run consistently and put the side cover back on. So let's test it and see if our little repair on this breaker switch actually worked out. Okay, power on. Make sure you turn the thing on. And on mine, I couldn't really read this, so I put some yellow up here so that I would know this thing was on, because it's really frustrating after you pull it, 20 times and you realize the switch wasn't on or the fuel was off. So let's see, can we get a first pull? Nope. Second pull, not bad. Okay, moment of truth. This is a 7.5 amp grinder. I've run it on this generator before, although the generator says on top it's only rated for 6.5 amps. So let's see if this new 7.5 amp breaker I put in works well with this unit. Oh yeah, we're back in business. Make sure it cycles on and off a couple times here. And this is the most powerful load I would put on this thing. But yeah, we're back in business, and the reason this fuel went bad was because when this thing quit producing power, I let it sit in my shop for like, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 months, maybe even a year. So it had year-old gas in it, approximately. So I suspect, even though it was pure gas, because that's all I run, it must have gone bad. So we went ahead and put some fresh fuel in here, got it running right. But now that I have this fresh fuel in there and it hasn't run in so long, I'm just going to let this thing sit here and run through a tank. And I'm going to come out here every once in a while and run that for a minute or so at a time, just to put some load on it. I'm trying to run this gas through. I've noticed this with almost all engines that you ever have, like motorcycles, for example. If you let your motorcycle sit around all winter, you're going to have to go out and run like a tank worth of gas through it before it's going to really run like it's supposed to. Well, if it's a carbureted motorcycle, and this is a carbureted two-stroke, so it's very similar to a small motorcycle. Anyways, guys, I'm going to let this thing run for the next 30 or 45 minutes and continually testing it out. I hope this was helpful for you. I couldn't find a single video about this breaker switch, so I'm not sure how common this is, but that chintzy little switch broke on mine, and I think it's been broken for a while, but I was able to just kind of cripple it along. But yeah, this one's a lot better. The actual reset button feels a lot better. The plastic, or the little rubberish clear thing that's on there, this little water protector, it feels a lot better than the original one. So I'm going to leave a link to the exact unit that I bought on Amazon. And if you run into this problem, it's probably going to be one of two things. If it's not producing power but it's running, it'll be either the capacitor or this breaker switch here. And it's some sort of a thermal breaker switch. Again, I'll provide the link down in the description and in the comment section. Anyways, appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope this helps you get your generator fixed up, and I'm glad to be back in business. We'll see you next time.